Genesis 1, verses 3 through 5. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Matthew Henry's commentary on the passage. We have here a further account of the first day's work, in which observe 1. That the first of all visible beings which God created was light. Not that by it he himself might see to work, for the darkness and light are both alike to him, but that by it we might see his works and his glory in them, and might work our works while it is day. The works of Satan and his servants are works of darkness, but he that does truth and does good comes to the light, and covets it, that his deeds may be made manifest. John 3:21. Light is the great beauty and blessing of the universe. Like the firstborn, it does, of all visible beings, most resemble its great parent in purity and power, brightness and beneficence. It is of great affinity with a spirit, and is next to it. Though by it we see other things, and are sure that it is, yet we know not its nature, nor can describe what it is, or by what way the light is parted. Job 38:19 and 24. By the sight of it, let us be led to and assisted in the believing contemplation of him who is light, infinite and eternal light, 1 John 1:5, and the Father of lights, James 1:17, and who dwells in inaccessible light, 1 Timothy 6:16. In the new creation, the first thing wrought in the soul is light. The blessed Spirit captivates the will and affections by enlightening the understanding, so coming into the heart by the door, like the good shepherd whose own the sheep are, while sin and Satan, like thieves and robbers, climb up some other way. Those that by sin were darkness, by grace become light in the world. 2. That the light was made by the word of God's power. He said, "Let there be light." He willed and appointed it, and it was done immediately. There was light, such a copy as exactly answered the original idea in the eternal mind. Oh, the power of the word of God! He spoke, and it was done really, effectually, and for perpetuity. Not in show only, and to serve a present turn, for he commanded, and it stood fast. With him it was dictum factum, a word and a world. The word of God, that is, his will and the good pleasure of it, is quick and powerful. Christ is the word, the essential eternal word. And by him the light was produced, for in him was light, and he is the true light, the light of the world. John 1:9 and 9:5. The divine light which shines in sanctified souls is wrought by the power of God, the power of his word, and of the spirit of wisdom and revelation, opening the understanding, scattering the mists of ignorance and mistake, and giving the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Christ, as at first God commanded the light to shine out of darkness. 2 Corinthians 4:6. Darkness would have been perpetually upon the face of fallen man if the Son of God had not come and given us an understanding, 1 John 5:20. 3. That the light which God willed when it was produced, he approved of. God saw the light, that it was good. It was exactly as he designed it, and it was fit to answer the end for which he designed it. It was useful and profitable. The world, which now is a palace, would have been a dungeon without it. It was amiable and pleasant. Truly the light is sweet, Ecclesiastes 11:7. It rejoices the heart, Proverbs 15:30. What God commands, he will approve and graciously accept. He will be well pleased with the work of his own hands. That is good indeed, which is so in the sight of God, for he sees not as man sees. If the light is good, how good is he that is the fountain of light, from whom we receive it, and to whom we owe all praise for it and all the services we do by it. 4. That God divided the light from the darkness, so put them asunder, as that they could never be joined together or reconciled, for what fellowship has light with darkness? 2 Corinthians 6:14. And yet he divided time between them, the day for light and the night for darkness, in a constant and regular succession to each other. Though the darkness was now scattered by the light, yet it was not condemned to a perpetual banishment, but takes its turn with the light and has its place, because it has its use. For as the light of the morning befriends the business of the day, so the shadows of the evening befriend the repose of the night, and draw the curtains about us that we may sleep the better. See Job 7:2. God has thus divided time between light and darkness, because he would daily remind us that this is a world of mixtures and changes. In heaven, there is perfect and perpetual light and no darkness at all. In hell, utter darkness and no gleam of light. In that world between these two, there is a great gulf fixed, but in this world they are counterchanged, and we pass daily from one to another, that we may learn to expect similar changes in the providence of God, peace and trouble, joy and sorrow, and may set the one over against the other, accommodating ourselves to both as we do to the light and darkness, bidding both welcome and making the best of both. 5. That God divided them from each other by distinguishing names. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. He gave them names as the Lord of both. For the day is his, the night also is his. Psalm 74:16. He is the Lord of time, and will be so till day and night shall come to an end, and the stream of time be swallowed up in the ocean of eternity. Let us acknowledge God in the constant succession of day and night, and consecrate both to his honor, by working for him every day and resting in him every night, and meditating in his law day and night. 6. That this was the first day's work, and a good day's work it was. The evening and the morning were the first day. The darkness of the evening was before the light of the morning, that it might serve as a foil to it, to set it off and make it shine the brighter. This was not only the first day of the world, but the first day of the week. I observe it to the honor of that day, because the new world began on the first day of the week likewise in the resurrection of Christ, as the light of the world early in the morning. In him the dayspring from on high has visited the world, and happy are we, forever happy, if that day star arise in our hearts. My own translation of Genesis 1:3-5. Then God said, "May light exist." So there was light. God saw the light, that it was good. So God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So there was evening and there was morning, day one. The first thing to notice here is that when God commands that something exist, that something obeys God even before it exists. So God, in effect, says, jump into existence. And that thing, in this case light, leaps into existence. Secondly, in the ancient Near East, if you had the right of naming something, that means that you had power over the object itself. Naming was an incredibly important part of how something came into existence, and names indicated what the person or thing was supposed to do. Thirdly, a question that we can ask about the order of events here is, why does the light come into play on day one, but the light bearers only come later on day 4? There are two historical contexts for Moses writing Genesis, an Egyptian context and a Canaanite context. And both of those were very, very important to Moses as he wrote Genesis. And he wanted Israel not to be lured by the false idolatries of both Egypt and Canaan. And in both of those contexts, Egypt and Canaan both worshipped the sun as a god. The Egyptians personified the sun and called that personification Ra. The Canaanites worshiped the sun and they called it Shemesh, which coincidentally is the same word as the Hebrew word for sun. We get a clue about what Moses is up to in verse 16, where Moses doesn't use the normal terms sun and moon, but rather the greater light and the lesser light. Moses wants to make sure that the Israelites understand that the light doesn't come from the light bearers. The light was created directly by God. Only later does God give the task of shining light on the earth to the sun and moon. Isaiah 60, verse 19 makes the same point, as does Revelation 22, verse 5. The Isaiah text tells us that God is the true light. And from there, of course, we can point forward to Jesus, who is the light of the world, as he says in John 8:12. The Revelation passage tells us that Just as the light existed before the light bearers, so it will also exist after the light bearers are no more, because God is light. John Calvin puts it this way: to nothing are we more prone than to tie down the power of God to those instruments, the agency of which he employs. Therefore, the Lord, by the very order of the creation, bears witness that he holds in his hand the light, which he is able to impart to us without the sun and moon. Calvin's commentary on Genesis 1:3. Another point to notice is brought up by Victor Hamilton. He notices that there are different kinds of separation and division. Some bring order, such as the division between light and dark. That's a separation of time into its divisions of day and night. And in verses 6 through 10 of Genesis 1, we see a separation of space, the earth, as well as that between dry land and sea. However, as Hamilton goes on to note, there are also separations that result in disorder. Quote, in sin and trespass, there is a separation towards disorder. Man and woman from God, man from woman, man from the soil, man from a garden. And in that kind of separation needs fixing, which is what Jesus Christ came in the world to do.